Okay, I am predicting all the World Cup groups after 36 matches have taken place within the World Cup group rounds. So 36 gone, 36 to go. Here we go, and I'll skip through every group and have a few talking points, but overall just predict where I think they will end. And there are already some sure results, with some qualified and some out of the tournament already. But there is a lot of drama to come within this qualification process. So let's crack into it. Okay, so we'll have a look at Group A. So Mexico, South Korea, Czech Republic and South Africa. There has been a bit of drama around this group so far. Mexico have qualified already. And that is because of their win over South Korea, which means they qualify top of their group, as South Korea cannot go ahead of them because of the head-to-head rule that they have just applied. And what I think so far from Mexico is they have been a really good host team within this tournament so far. In the game against South Korea, it didn't seem like they dominated the game. I thought South Korea, until Mexico scored, were the controlling team. But when Mexico put the ball in the net off the South Korean goalkeeper's mistake, it was... They woke up. There was a big wake up in the crowd and the players, and we saw that. And they went on to take the win, 1-0, which was a really big win for Mexico overall, because that puts them through top, and that is a huge place you want to be, because that's highly likely going to be a third place side they're going to take on, or possibly a second place side, and they'll be really happy with that. South Korea won't be happy with their second place, and they're not secure at the moment, because they still have to beat South Africa, which should be straightforward, but wasn't straightforward for Czech Republic, due to South Africa getting the late win there. But I think South Korea will get through with that win. Czech Republic versus Mexico, I think Mexico will get that as well. So Mexico and South Korea, I predict, are going to be the only teams that get through, as Czech Republic will only likely finish with 1 point within this group. Now that's a pretty standard prediction from me, but we'll move to Group B, and there's some more mix-ups around here. Switzerland haven't looked convincing to me, other than their 4-1 win over Bosnia, but that wasn't totally convincing the whole match. But they did blow it out in the end. Xhaka took the penalty over the other players as captain, showed his dominance there, but that's a big win for them. They've got to gain that momentum, because the Swiss haven't looked like the big Swiss side we think they'd be, and that's maybe because they're lacking a bit up front. Their midfield looks good, but they're up front, I think they're only looking like Mbolo, Vargas, and who was good. Vargas was really good off the bench, but Mbolo and Ndoye. So it doesn't look totally convincing there, but a team that does look convincing so far is Canada, with their 6-0 win over Qatar. And yeah, it was expected they'd win, but not by this margin. That was slightly blurred by Kone's injury. That's a big injury for Canada, and it looked pretty ugly. And you never want to see that as for any sort of player. So, and it didn't look too good for the Qatar guy who fouled him. He looked pretty in distress as well. So it was no good for anyone. But they did get the job done very convincingly, and that's put them in good stead for qualifying. But there's a big matchup this week between Canada and Switzerland, and that will decide who goes through top. Of course, they're not. Well, I'm pretty sure they can get knocked out. Both of those sides can get knocked out. But highly likely Canada don't, and Switzerland are quite likely they're not going to either. And I believe that Bosnia will beat Qatar because of all the Qatar have had, if I'm not wrong, quite a few players out now. So I believe Bosnia will get 3 points there, which will put them just beside Switzerland, as I think Canada will beat Switzerland. So Canada top, Switzerland second only just, and Bosnia third, and I think they get through that. And then we have Group C. Now, Brazil, Morocco, Scotland, and Haiti. Now, this was always going to be the interesting pool. And it's not really phased anyone so far. No real upsets or anything like that in this pool. We saw it during the Brazil game with their win over Haiti 3-0. And that was a big step forward for them. But Cunha was the man. And I knew he would start. Igor Thiago didn't look quite so good for Brazil against Morocco. And Cunha just showed that hunger in front of goal. And he made some really good runs. I like how Cunha is stepping forward for that role. And Neymar will be back soon, but I doubt he will get a starting position. Rafinha's been quiet. He's been really, really quiet. And I'm quite surprised about that. I don't know what will happen to him around Brazil, but I think he'll still remain in that starting position. Vinny Jr. has been Vinny Jr. as usual, and it's that midfield that they're just got to keep watching out for when they play the biggest sides. Because Casemiro and Bruno Guimaraes often aren't as good at defending the whole time as Paqueta will be moving forward as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they defend and how quality their balls are through. Casemiro played really well with the way he created opportunities for Brazil. And I liked Brazil overall. 3-0 was a solid outcome for them. But there's still more to come, and they have a big matchup, which I will do a preview for later, against Scotland, which could turn very interesting. Now, Morocco played Scotland, and they got the win there, only by 1 goal in the second minute. Saibari, that was struck well. He was coming off the right and put it into the top corner, but Saibari is the main man for Morocco, and he's not a out-and-out striker, and he doesn't play within the Moroccan system as an out-and-out striker, and that's because he likes getting back and creating and helping out in defence. But I really liked his runs. The only questions I think though from Morocco are, where do the other goals come from? Saibari's looking really good in front of goal, but where do the rest of the goals come from? Because there have been some poor missed opportunities, but then not a whole lot of opportunities against Scotland. And that's a big issue if they're coming against another team like Brazil. If they're not able to create more than one opportunity in a match, it could be detrimental. And that is where they will have to work on it, creating these opportunities. And I think they get the best opportunities on the break, which we saw against Brazil. And we saw when they scored against Scotland, they're best on the counter break. But against Scotland, they dominated possession. They dominated for most of the match. They won in the end, but those are also the sides, those teams like Scotland could be a side that knocks out a team like Morocco because of the fact they can't break them down easily. and we've seen that so much during this tournament, teams are tough to break down and get through. So I think that the Morocco versus Scotland game, the Brazil versus Scotland game, I do have a prediction later, but I'll give you my winner, and I think Brazil will win that game, just because of the whole quality within the whole side. But Scotland, they can push Brazil. On the other hand, Morocco versus Haiti, I don't think that will be as close. So overall in this group, I think that Morocco will get through top, and that is because of the goal difference they will gain against Haiti. Then Brazil, then I think Scotland can get through in the third place knockout as well. Now Group D, that was a long Group C prediction, but Group D, this one should also be long as well, because there's been some drama here, and that occurred. We thought it would be the USA vs Australia game, but that was put behind us when we saw that Paraguay vs Turkey game, where Turkey were knocked out after pretty much dominating possession, dominating shots, dominating every statistic other than goals within the match, and possibly shots on target against Paraguay. And that's why they lost 1-0, because of the Paraguayan defence. Now, Paraguay were pretty hard-working. They put their bodies on the line against Turkey, and they showed a lot of grit during that match, and I really, really liked it. Almiron, of course, was a big talking point with his hand over the mouth, which for some that you don't know, that he covered his mouth, and it was a rule before the tournament was made that they can't cover their mouths when they are in an interaction with another player. And that is because then the camera, I'm pretty sure it's because the camera can't see what they are saying, as often that what he could have been saying was something quite abusive, and it's for the rights of the players. So VAR picked that up, and it's a fair enough call. It's a bit niggly for a red card, but it's fair enough for the rights of the players, and they were told about it. So I think Almiron has made a bad decision there, and it hasn't cost Paraguay much at all, but it could have. It could have sold them a lot, and it could have sold them their place in the knockout. So yeah, he was lucky that Paraguay's defence saved them, because that defence was phenomenal. The amount of shots that were blocked were quite crazy, and Turkey just really didn't have an answer. They weren't so great they took so many shots, but they didn't create big opportunities. And you would 100% rather 3 big opportunities in a match and 4 shots than 1 big opportunity and 20 shots, or even 30 in Turkey's chance, because a lot of their shots were outside the box, and we know they like taking shots from long range, and they are good at that, but they weren't good at that. And when that occurs, you have to change something. Turkey did not, and that's why they came out second best within that match and are already knocked out of qualification due to the head-to-head rule. USA against Australia, USA dominated that match in the first half. Now, USA looked really handy, and they've looked handy so far this tournament, especially in the first halves. Second half, I think Australia really gave them a go. They looked so much better, but they still couldn't get through USA. And off the bench, Australia looked good. I don't know why Iran Kunda and Metcalf were left on the bench despite their brilliant performances against Turkey. So that could have been possibly what caused them to lose the game. Of course, it was in the defensive side of the game that where they lost because of those 2 goals, but they would have been put back into with a chance if they had scored those goals when they had the chances. And overall, they didn't really have that many chances, especially in the first half. But from here, USA qualified first, Turkey qualified 4th. But the question comes, where Australia and Paraguay meet up, who takes that match? From what I see, I think Australia win that match. Of course, I've got a preview later, and we'll get to that. But Australia going through second, and possibly Paraguay may qualify through 3rd place. It depends their goal difference, of course. Now, Group E. Now, this is an interesting group. Germany haven't looked totally convincing. Convincing against Curacao, yes. Not so much against Ivory Coast. Ecuador haven't looked convincing at all for me. They haven't looked convincing at all. And we thought they would be a good side, but the fact that, yes, they have only conceded 1 goal, but they haven't scored any goals this tournament, shows how much lack of attacking options they do have, and they can't create chances and finish them off. Now, we did see Ecuador, they've hit the post, 4 or 5 times this tournament already, and that's a big total for the World Cup. But still, they need to be putting chances away, and is there a lack of quality from Valencia up top? I think so, especially against Curacao. He was not at the top of his game, and that's a big talking point for them. But Curacao, they were performed very well to keep it to a 0-0 draw, and the man of the moment for that game was Room, the goalkeeper. What a player. Man, this guy can save. Man, this guy is such an exciting player to be coming like this and performing so well. 15 shots saved during the match. That is a massive tally, and he should be so happy with what he did, because that saved Curacao. Yes, the defense was amazing, but his performance to save that many goals, that is something to be proud of. Now, to the Germany vs Ivory Coast game. Now, that was an interesting game as well. And Ivory Coast, they looked good for most of the match, with going 1-0 early on and holding it for a long time. And then suddenly, the man I thought should be starting for this match came off the bench. Dennis Undav scores 2 goals. Or was it a goal and assist? One or the other. But his impact off the bench was outstanding. And that Germany vs Ivory Coast game was quite an interesting one. With that Undav performance. And they didn't close it out till really, really late in the game. And Germany have proved that they are here for this World Cup with those moments, and they will need those big players off the bench. But where was he to start off the game, and where were they? They were asleep. And I don't think their tactics worked at all against Ivory Coast, because Ivory Coast was simply superb within that game, and they showed why they are a real contender at this World Cup, Ivory Coast, to go deep. And then Germany, they got that late goal with Undav. That last 2 goals, there was one really late. And I felt sorry for Ivory Coast because they really deserved that win. They put in a massive effort and they ended up with 0 points at the end of it. But overall, I think Germany now, they have sealed their deal. They are through, and they'll be through top, Germany. But now comes the question, can Ivory Coast get through? I do think they will get the job done against Curacao, whatever margin it is. And then Ecuador, I don't believe will beat Germany. So I don't think Ecuador will get through, and Ivory Coast and Germany will get through. Group F. So this one is an interesting group, as all of them are, of course. But there have been some very high-scoring encounters within this group. So, of course, we had Netherlands play Sweden, and that was a 5-1 blowout. And Netherlands showed why they are this team that looks good, and they didn't really show what they had against Japan. They lacked in attack, but then when Brian Brobby against Sweden was up front, I think they looked so much better, scoring 2 goals at the start and got that big win. I don't think Sweden really had a big chance there, but Netherlands blew out the score and showed a lot of determination and produced a statement win there. Japan also produced a big win over Tunisia, 4-0, which doesn't really surprise me either. Tunisia aren't looking great. They're already knocked out. Sweden could get through here, but Japan and Netherlands should get through from this. Netherlands for sure, I think, are top. But then it could get interesting, Japan versus Sweden. But I think Japan will get second. Sweden will sneak through in third. Now, Group G. This one has produced a lot of entertainment in the past week or so. In the first round, there was a draw for all sides. So, New Zealand top. Now, New Zealand are bottom after their loss against Egypt. Now, that wasn't straight sailing for Egypt, with New Zealand going ahead 1-0, and that was so exciting for me, entertaining, and we thought, oh, gee, they're going to get through with the win. Suddenly, when they came out in second half, Egypt just switched on. And they did ask for that win. They did put in a lot of effort in that second half to go for it. I thought Mo Salah was so much better in that second half, and those attackers just so much more energy. And New Zealand were so tight at the back, defending those fast, skillful attackers, and it did feel like it was a deserved win for Egypt over New Zealand. But what a match. What a performance New Zealand put out there. And to play Belgium in a week's time, maybe not even a week, not that long, end of this week. But that is going to be exciting to see how they face up against Belgium, because I think they can give them a go. Imagine they got the win, that would be crazy. I don't know if they can, but they can for sure, but don't know if they will. But they could get the draw, and that would be just a great statement for them. Of course, they want the win against Belgium. And Belgium haven't looked convincing to me. They played Iran. And that game was a draw as well. And Iran and Belgium aren't the side I thought they would be. Now, that might be because they're just not working well as a team, but there's something going wrong there. I really like this team, all the players within them, but how they're working together and how they're tactically is not working, or it's at least been matched by Egypt and Iran so far this tournament. And that's considering those two sides have been pretty good so far. Now, New Zealand will face up against Belgium, and that could be interesting if Belgium don't bring their A game. If they can't bring their best game, Belgium, they will be struggling to get through. That would be horrific for them to get knocked out this early in the tournament. On the other hand, Iran are playing Egypt, and that will be also an interesting encounter, but Egypt, I think, will get the upper hand and qualify first, which would be quite an exciting win there. So I think Egypt will finish top. I believe New Zealand can get the draw. So they finish third. No, they'd finish fourth or third, depends how Egypt game goes. And then Iran third and Belgium second. Okay, move on to Group H. Spain are back in this World Cup. Spain, it's good to see them performing, but Cape Verde really pushed them that first game, 0-0 draw. And of course, Cape Verde produced another draw against Uruguay. What a team they are turning out to be. And I can't wait to see how they face up against Saudi Arabia. Imagine they get the win there and finish second or even first. It'll be second most likely. I don't even know if they can finish first. No, I don't think they can finish first. Depends how much they win by. But Spain, Uruguay, that'll also be an interesting matchup. Spain, of course, struggled against Cape Verde, but against Saudi Arabia, they switched it on. We saw a bit more of those strong players. Lamine Yamal came off the... but he scored a goal. That was a big moment for him. Spain are back. That could have been just a blip, that first game. And they're back in the talks for title, the World Cup trophy. I think they will get ahead of Uruguay. Uruguay are not convincing for me at all. And finish on 7 points. Spain first. And then Cape Verde to finish second with 5 points. And Uruguay knocked out and on third place, 2 points. And then Saudi Arabia on 1 point. Group I. Norway, France, Senegal and Iraq. This has been a bit of a exciting pool to look to for the Stars. And Elise and Mbappe definitely turned up against Senegal in that second half. First half, it was quiet. It was pretty even. And I thought Senegal really had a shot for this game. Suddenly, out of the break, Elise and Mbappe... Michael Elise, by the way, best player in the world at the moment for sure, because of the way he can break lines with his passes. He's producing some of the most incredible balls through the defence. And now that we saw a few moments where he produced some incredible passes to Mbappe, and Mbappe scored. When those guys are firing, they will be nearly impossible to stop. So you need to quiet down Michael Elise and Mbappe and cut them down from the source. Not allow them the ball, not allow them space. Because when they have space, they control the game. They produce magic. And that's where France are most dangerous. France, I don't think, are going to get challenged too much within this group stage, despite Norway. Just because the fact their team is so balanced all around the park. So they should get through with 3 wins. 9 points. If they don't, that's a disappointing result for them. Then in second place, now this is another conversation here. Norway or Senegal? This is possibly my most exciting matchup to come for this group stage, because these two sides are pretty even, I would say. Because Norway have that form, they have that exciting attack. The way they are playing is looking really good. Using Nusa now down that left flank, and he's kind of directing them away from Haaland defences, stretching defences, and producing opportunities. And I love that with Norway. I really think they can be dangerous, especially when Haaland has space and time. He is nearly the hardest man to stop in front of goal when he has space and time. Senegal will match up with this though. They are looking like a really balanced side. I like the looks. They just maybe need to fix up a few of their finishing and chances they create. I don't think they could have done much to stop the French momentum during that match, because they were just playing as the best team in the world would. And that's so hard to stop for a team like Senegal. But I think that will end in a draw. So it will come down to goal difference. And Norway will edge them out there. So I think it'll be France top, 9 points. Norway second with 4 points. Senegal with 4 points as well. And third place in qualifying. And Iraq 0. Because they have the hardest group in the competition. Now, this is the Messi show, and we saw that last week. Group J, Lionel Messi hat-trick against Algeria. Man, this guy is incredible at the age he is to be performing this way. Now, Argentina know they've done it in the 2022 World Cup. They know they have to work around Messi, and they did that very well during their most recent game against Algeria. They got him the ball, but Messi did go around looking for the ball. In defence, he didn't do a lot, but you saw in that first goal, which was a stunning goal, by the way, the way he did drop deep. He was down by the centre-backs. He dropped deep, won the ball, and was straight forward, weaving in through the midfield of Algeria like it was nothing, and then putting it into the back of the net. This guy could be something. Could produce something incredible this World Cup yet again. Is Argentina still the quality though to help him in that way against big sides? I'm not sure, but we know it's Lionel Messi. This guy is going to be incredibly difficult to stop this World Cup, despite his age. And against Austria, I don't think Austria have much of a chance. And I was thinking Argentina, they won't look that good because Messi won't even be starting. I don't think he'll be anywhere near like what he was in 2022. But he just proved to me this last week that he is still top quality, world class, and can produce those moments he did in 2022. Maybe not to exactly the same standard, but to a near enough standard to be called an incredible player. So I think they'll finish with 9 points here. Argentina, not too much to worry about. Austria, I don't think they'll struggle too badly. But that is going to be a good matchup, Austria versus Argentina. But I think they'll finish 6. And then that could be a 1-1 draw between Jordan and Algeria, because Jordan aren't looking too bad. So possibly only those top 2, Argentina and Austria, get through here. Group K. Now, Portugal have been in the media everywhere. And there's been a lot of talk about Ronaldo. And João Neves, when he said he called Ronaldo a normal player, which I think it's controversial, and there's a lot of opinions about this. A lot of saying, "Oh, Ronaldo's a star. You've got to treat him like a star." Ronaldo is, but then again, people are saying Ronaldo should be benched because he's you can't overlook what he is now. He is not the same player as he was before. In my opinion, I think Ronaldo should be given another shot. But I don't think he is the player and when everyone knows he's not the player he was, but Portugal will not. They cannot be convinced that he has to start. They can't. Roberto Martinez needs to know that he doesn't have to start. Like, he can't just commit to Ronaldo just because he's Ronaldo. Just because of that aura. Because you can't do that. He come off the bench, impact off the bench, that's some impact. But you can't look at him and say he has to start every time, because you need to look at this team. In World Cups, it's all about the team and how they work around each other and work around these sort of players and egos. And it's all about being able to find that balance within the team, how they work best. And if that's Ronaldo on the bench, it's Ronaldo on the bench. And I think that is clear now for me. So they need to work that out soon. Otherwise, knockouts, they might struggle. And they've got to get there first. And I don't think Uzbekistan won't be fully a rollover. But as Colombia didn't really convincingly win, 3-1 win to them, but it was only late that they pushed out that lead. Colombia could be interesting against Portugal. That will be an exciting matchup as well. So I think Portugal should shine out here and take this group, but I don't think it will be clean sailing. I think Democratic Republic of Congo may get through here. So I think Portugal will win this group with 7 points. I think they can get those 7 points they need. But then I think Congo will finish with 4 points and Colombia will finish with 4 points. A draw between those two sides, as Congo are looking really handy. So overall, that means... Oh no, Congo 5 points. So overall, I think it will finish Portugal, Congo, and then Colombia, who will also get through. Okay, last group. Let's get through this. Group L. England, Ghana, Panama, and Croatia. Now, Croatia weren't exactly what I thought they'd be, or what everyone thought they'd be against England. England were on another level in that second half, though. They looked really handy. First half was a bit shaky, was a bit interesting. But then the tactics got moving. They started playing attacking football. And they were making a lot of opportunities. I think this is going to be a high-scoring pool because of the fact there are some... Panama and Ghana won't be rollovers, but they will be sides they can put goals on. So it could be interesting to see how England and Croatia face that. But as we saw in that first match, England vs Croatia, 6 goals overall. That shows you the intent from these teams. Attacking football is what they want to play here. England should top the group, 9 points. I think that's pretty straightforward. I think Croatia will get 6 points and Ghana get 3 points. I think it's that straightforward. And I haven't predicted many upsets because I think they have been. I don't think we'll see too many more upsets just because of the fact that these teams will be warming into the World Cup. But that is my predictions for the groups. And we'll see how this rolls out later in the tournament. But a lot to look forward to for this. And stay tuned for a lot more.